Tonight, it's the debut episode of MacGyver's arch-nemesis, Murdoc, as we learn the harrowing origin of how Mac and Pete first met. Plus, will superfan Beau Rigby be revolted when he sees how the sausage is made during this sausage party? Find out next on Making Fun of MacGyver. It's Making Fun of MacGyver, a rib-tickling takedown of our favorite 80s adventure show, Perfect Strangers. Now, it's MacGyver, starring Sam Jordan as the skeptic, Mike Garland as the diehard, and Jeff Hess as the scientist.
Name's MacGyver.
Welcome, everybody, to Making Fun of MacGyver, the show where we recap, review, and ridicule every episode of the original series. And I'm Sam Jordan, your host. And as usual, I'm joined by my two fellow MacGyverites, and this time an extra MacGyverite. First off, we've got the mullet, Mike Garland.
I am all party in the front and business in the rear. It's a reverse mullet.
The mustache, Jeff Hess.
They're going out of style, gents. I'm telling you, this is the summer to shave it. The whole beard thing, it's over. Trend is done. It's time to shave.
And the toupee, Beau Rigby.
I only wear it on special occasions.
Like appearing on a podcast?
Exactly.
My trio of testosterone heavy hunks. A question that begs for your attention. Are you ready to see more two men in a truck than an all-day move with two men and a truck?
I brought a boxed lunch.
I'm as ready as two hunks moving junk.
I've been waiting 6 months.
Yes, you have.
Yes,
Yeah.
very true.
Good. All right, guys, we are moments away from Making Fun of MacGyver. It's our 52nd episode, and tonight we're talking about MacGyver Season 2, Episode 18, Partners. But first, it's our opening gambit. Oh, boy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome longtime fan and our second guest co-host ever. You know him, you love him, and you remember the sounder. Please welcome Beau Rigby.
Does it, Beau Rigby?
Yes, it does, Beau Rigby. Thank you guys for having me here.
This is the first official time.
We're going to talk about you for a second here, if you don't mind. You first reached out to us in January of 21. Okay, so a little over a year ago. And here's what you said. Hey, guys, just want to chime in and say you have a real live listener in South Florida. I stumbled onto your podcast and have been slowly making my way through the episodes. I'm up to the prodigal. I am enjoying it. Keep up the good work. I look forward to making our way through the rest of the series. Take care. Very nice, relaxing, complimentary message there. We appreciated that. And then you proceeded to keep staying in touch and giving us little back pats here. This was good. I like this. What about this? You told us you in CNC machining. And then somehow, a year plus later, we've worn you down to the point of even becoming a Patreon patron. And even at the Swiss Army knife tier level, the highest level, which has earned you, among other things, the right to co-host with us here. So once again, Beau, welcome. Thank you so much for your support and all the support you've given us over the past year. We're excited to have you. How do you feel?
I'm happy to be here. Yeah. So basically what happened was I found you with my second go-through of MacGyver. I went through MacGyver the first time in 2008, and then I was just watching the episodes. And then during the pandemic started, I'm like, well, I got the DVDs. Let me go through it again. And this time there's podcasts. So let's see what podcasts are out there. And so I stumbled upon you guys, and you guys from the very first episode, I was like, oh, these guys are great. So I continued listening, and then I don't know what got me to be a Patreon member. I think it was like Mike. The one was Mike was singing, and I had to turn down my radio.
Yes,
I was.
You thought your money was going to get us to stop singing during the show, but no, unfortunately it did not.
No, I said any guy that's going to put himself out there like that, yeah, you know what? He deserves a few bucks.
That's awesome. So that's kind of your MacGyver history. You only got into MacGyver in 2008. Is that right?
I knew, of course, I've watched an episode or so. I knew duct tape and paper clips and that kind of thing. But, yeah, 2008 was the first time I sat down and really went through the series.
That's kind of like me, although for me it was just 2017 when I started watching it, but we both came way late. And all right, so how about quick little bit about yourself, where you're from, what do you do, hobbies, family, anything else you want to share so the listeners can get a better feel for the man that earned this?
Does it, Beau Rigby?
Sure. I'm from South Florida, and I work in machining, like you said. I'm quite new to that profession. I've only been working in machining for 2 years. Before that, I worked in. It's like almost like a dishwasher for medical parts. I would just run them through the machine so that they would be ready for packaging, to go out to the doctors and that kind of thing. I did that for 2.5 years. And before that, I was kind of just going through job to job, trying to find my place, in the world. I went through real estate, decided I couldn't be, a salesperson that well. Yep. I went to, I worked at the airport. I was like a baggage handler. I worked in pools, I cleaned pools, massage therapist, all kinds of stuff. And kind of like a drifter, kind of like Mac in this episode that we're gonna do, where he didn't really have a job and he just going around until he fell into something, and that's basically what I did.
Oh, we love that. We love that backstory. We didn't get, we've talked with you now a few times. You've joined us for the monthly executive producer hangout session, so we know you a little bit. But you hadn't told us that. I love that you've done all these different things. I think a bunch of us have kind of done that stuff too. And coincidence or not, the fact that now you've been into the CNC machining and it seems to be a good fit. And you said a couple of years, roughly, more or less.
It'll be 2.5 years this June.
And next month, it'll be 2 years for our podcast. I don't think that's a coincidence that you found your niche and you found our podcast roughly the same time.
No, I think that was fate.
So thank you again. You're in at the Swiss Army knife tier, which allows you to choose one episode per MacGyver season to join us on. And you've chosen to join us for tonight's episode, Partners. We didn't force this on you. We said, take your pick. You chose Partners tonight. Was that an easy choice for you, or?
For season 2, yeah, this was pretty easy. It was kind of like the turning point in the series when they decided to bring on an arch enemy for MacGyver, and the introduction of Murdoc, which we never know his full name, so it's like an anti-MacGyver. So yeah, that's why I picked this episode.
You did pick a good one, and we're excited to have you here. And if you're listening out there, like our brand of shenanigans, we hope you do. We'd love it if you engaged with us. We post some good stuff on the social networks, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. So please follow us, say hi like Beau did. A rating or a review would be awesome if your podcast supplier allows for such things. You can leave a message for us on the Making Fun of MacGyver hotline at 904-419-3310. We'll play it back on the show. If email's your thing, it's makingfunofmacgyver@gmail.com. And if you want your voice liner to appear on our show as something you'll be hearing soon, Beau's will be the first one, or monthly bonus episodes, video chat, hangout sessions, and your own seat as a co-host for an episode with us, go to patreon.com/makingfunofmacgyver for the details. All right, so we got the getting to know you out of the way. Still in the opening gambit, though. Now we got some house cleaning, Beau, and I'm sorry you got to be around for some of this, but, it's like, I think Claire Fisher's the unofficial ombudsman, but that's more on like the sensitivity stuff. But sometimes we catch errors that we made in previous shows, and this is where we kind of clean it up. Now, before we get to the error, last episode, Jeff and I played another prank on Mike. It's a prank/bet. Now, we did this one other time, several months ago in episode 34, Jack of Lies. We tried to say the word Mike a crazy amount of times, and Jeff and I spoke with each other, not Mike, before the episode, and guessed, like, we took a bet. How many times can we say the word Mike? And he'll say, like, guys, what are you doing? Why do you keep saying my name? And Jeff said something like, I don't know, 60. I said something like 40. And we counted up. We said it a total of 212 times, I believe, and Mike never noticed. He never said one day. Even at the end of the episode, me and Jeff are just chanting, Mike, 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 Mike. And he's just staring at us like, what do you do? But he never said anything. He's like, so, okay, that said, we didn't let that deter us. And this past episode, Jack Dalton was back, and Jack likes to play pranks. So we decided to play another prank. And I said to Jeff before the show, I said, how about we do all these like lame segues where when Mike says a word at the end of his sentence, we take a word or whatever he said and just carry it over, transition into whatever our thought is, but constantly using Mike's last words. And I think I said on 7 he would notice. And Jeff, you said what? Do you remember?
Oh, probably something more than that, but I didn't succeed at doing this very well. You were doing great at it, though.
Right. So Jeff was in on the joke, yet actually never took part, maybe because I just was hogging it all up or something like that.
Man, I was watching an artist go to work, man.
So
sometimes you got to step back and let greatness happen.
And Mike, once again, did not disappoint because he did not notice and pointed out at any time. Although in this supercut you're about to hear, you can hear little moments where maybe he's getting a little tired of it.
He's getting close.
But listen here now to, this is not even all of them, but a bunch of the lame segues. Now, it was really easy because I really did not enjoy last episode, so the two kind of fit perfectly together. But here's our bet/prank on Mike from last episode, the supercut. Here we go.
I guess in theory, does this count as borrowed footage?
Yeah, I had to borrow someone's patience while watching this.
And the next time we see them, they're on a motorcycle with a sidecar, and the chase is on.
The waist is on. The waist is on, more like it.
And that's how Axminster 1, joyfully or painfully, depending on how you take it, comes to an end.
My patience was coming to an end.
Any thought on that, Sam? How Mac and Jack, they go under the police tape, and immediately bad guy cop recognizes them as the people that supposedly murdered Light?
I was not sure if I was recognizing the show I was watching.
4 days at Disney will do that to you, man.
I tell you what I won't do is want 4 days of watching this episode. So.
I just was there for a paycheck. It was kind of nice, actually, but never saw a confetti cannon.
I tell you, I needed a paycheck to continue with this episode.
J. Michaels, company leak.
I'd rather watch Al Michaels take a leak than this episode.
See, big deal. Could be a disaster. Back outside.
This episode, in my opinion,
Wow.
is a disaster.
Making new friends every day, Sam. Like, it was never going to work. You have wood and, like, hydraulic pressure. At some point, the wood is going to snap.
I thought I was going to snap with all the contrived escapes they were doing
You are
here.
a crotchety man right now, sir.
He's figuring it out.
Gotta love Mike's just marching right on. He even gave the bonus laugh. I said, what I said, I could go 4 days without watching this episode. He even gave a bonus laugh at that. There was nothing funny about that. Mike, over to you. What's your take on what we just did to you?
I had no idea, again, that you were doing this, and then all of a sudden I listened to the episode, and you guys say, oh, we're playing this goof on Mike, and I was like, well, I got them. I didn't get it. So, whatever. This is another Jack Dalton episode coming up. Are you doing things to me again today that I should be attentive to?
We couldn't go back to back.
You got to tell us that you knew the whole time and you were just keeping a straight face because you're a professional. You got to lie through it.
No, I didn't know a damn thing. I was just sticking to my copy and had no idea what kind of shenanigans you guys were throwing my way.
But it's also not a good sign that if I'm just going to keep doing this lame thing, that you don't at some point say, hey, stop doing that because this is really sounding dumb. You're just going to let me do whatever nonsense, I mean, come on, man. As a friend,
I don't have to edit this thing.
Okay.
You know what's nonsense is all those segues.
There you go. There's one for Jeff. Yeah. All right. So, and then something else happened last episode. Sharp-eared listeners may have noticed our math was a little off. So, actually, this is a clip from the end of last show as we're doing the ratings. So, a 1, a 7, and a 4. That's by far, we've never had a 6-point swing, I don't think, on anything. And that averaged out to...
This one's rated 3 out of 10 mullets.
So, it's a 1, a 4, and a 7. That's 12. You divide it by 3.
I got 3.
You still got 3 on that?
Yeah.
Beau, you're sharp with this kind of stuff. What is 12 divided by 3? What? Beau? I mean,
4.
Is it contagious?
It's 4.
Yes, it's 4. It is 4.
Yes.
Okay. It was tricky. So we apologize on that, folks. But you know what? Let's just blame that on our show announcer, Vern, because he's hits the thing. He said the 3. But we gave Dalton Jack of Spies a combined 4 rating, 4 out of 10 mullets, not 3. That was our fault. All right, Beau, as one of our most dedicated fans, you know what's next in the show, and you know how out of control the theme song to this segment has gotten. So if you need to make a sandwich, take a quick run around the block. Now is the time, because now is the time for viewer mail.
Turn it off, turn this garbage off.
Oh my goodness, it's our show announcer and grizzled podcast industry veteran, Vern Sanderson.
Screw you, Needleneck, and your little radio buddies Goober and Grape over here.
Vern, we haven't talked to you since episode 19, To Be a Man, way back in December of 2020.
Oh, I know, trust me. I try to keep as far away as possible from this steaming bag of hunk dung.
Whoa, Vern.
Okay, well, I mean, it's great to see you, though.
That's a little harsh.
I'm more pissed than a Yankee Stadium urinal.
Sounds like how I feel about Soon Parts.
I mean, Sam blaming me for your inability to correct 12 by 3?
Well,
You son of a diseased camel. I ought to put you in a pine box parka pronto.
My goodness.
I mean, we wrote it, but you still had to read it, Vern. Couldn't you have at least done it right?
They say many hands make light work. But you know what, Vern? You got to be using your hands to help. You can't just let an error come across your desk and have it go on. That's how Teslas get made.
Now, I hate to interrupt your little whirlwind of whimsy here, but apparently nobody has been telling you about how much you all suck. So please allow me. I'm gonna run you sanctimonious sons of bitches through the garden.
Whoa.
Vern, come on, I mean...
Christ, someone seriously needs to pop the bubble on your grand illusions of adequacy. And I'm here to do it. Hell, the combined talent in this room couldn't fill a rusty thimble.
Whoa, Vern.
Hey, how's that making fun of MacGyver hotline doing, huh? That thing's quieter than a rat pissing on cotton. I mean, the best part about that show is the damn viewer mail theme, because it shuts you guys up. That and the jazz singing gas station guy.
We like the lamp is low, or the light is low, whatever the hell it's called. We like that song. Play it now.
Dream beside me in
Yeah, that one. Now let's go one by one. Now, Sam, you're supposed to be the funny one.
I guess.
You puny arm pretzel bender. Your sense of humor is drier than a dust bunny at a funeral home. I mean, God, did you ever stop to think you're the reason no one likes you?
Good Lord.
And Mike, you call what you do episode recaps?
I mean, yeah.
Shut your sauce box, Chubby, before I cream you again. I mean, Jesus, your MacGyver monologues make the vagina monologues sound exciting. You've got Van Gogh's ear for storytelling, you know that?
Sorry.
And Jeff, you're supposed to be the scientist of this shit-hot debacle.
Hey, man, I don't know why.
Pipe down, you soapy-eyed skin bag. Daddy's talking. Your little Does It MacGyver segments. I get more useful information from the end credits of Maury. In fact, the only reason I watch your silly little backyard bits are in hopes of seeing you set your kidney-deficient self on fire.
You know, I think this is way over the line.
Do we have an HR department?
Do we have security? Are we paying him? Why is he here?
What has gotten into you?
And then you hire some two-bit actor and bring him in here pretending to be a paying fan of the show? And you give him a ridiculous name like Joe Pygmy?
It's Beau Rigby.
Hey, talking is a no-no, Bobo. Save your dignity, Rigby, and skedaddle. I never forget a face, but in your case, I'll make an exception.
Oh my gosh.
That's a dunk.
That's it.
I'm sorry, Beau. That's a dunk.
All right, listen, losers, here's what's going to happen now. You're going to blow off the viewer mail segment, and I'm going to sing Living on a Prayer. You chum buckets all sing that song, and then you're going to let No Diggity over here crack the mic before me?
It's Beau Rigby, Vern. It's Beau Rigby. I don't know why.
So it's shut, newbie. You're a lot like Rapunzel, except instead of letting your hair down, you let everyone else down.
What did I ever do to you? It's the first time we're meeting.
Let's do a duet, you and me. Beau, and just don't make me look at you. Now, Do your little silly flashback thing.
More like Vern Sanderson. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. Goodness.
Let me take you back now to Monday, March 2nd, 1987. The number one film, we got a new number one film, guys. It's A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. I think that might have been the second best of all of them. At Heather Langenkamp, who I had a crush on, by the way. Patricia Arquette, and hey, here's a name making fun of MacGyver fans will remember. Larry Fishburne, Lawrence Fishburne. You recall Mike wanted to see him topless a couple of months ago.
I didn't want to see him topless. I enjoyed seeing him topless.
Do you still want to see him topless?
I've already seen it. I don't need to see it again.
Okay. Dream Warriors, it was theatrically released February 27, 87. It grossed $44.8 million domestically on a budget of just $4 million. It received mostly positive reviews from critics and is considered by many to be one of the best films in the Elm Street series. I've seen it. I remember seeing it in theaters. You guys were probably too young to see it in theaters, but I enjoyed it. You guys ever see Nightmare on Elm Street 3?
No, I've never seen it at all.
I'm a huge horror movie fan, but mostly of like the Renaissance horror movies that have come around, not really the old splatter stuff. So I've not seen it, but I'm looking at pictures of young Heather Langenkamp, and yes.
Okay, thank you for supporting me on that.
So I have never seen any of the Nightmare movies either, but I liked Heather Langenkamp on. She was on Just the 10 of Us, which was a comedy show on ABC, and that was my introduction to that young lady.
Okay, yeah, kind of cute in that kind of girl next door way, right? Like the teeth were a little semi-buck teeth, kind of, but very pretty, approachable. So, I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit of Ally Larder meets Denise Richards, kind of, with brunette hair.
Okay.
Ally Larder's big old teeth.
Beau, you got a celebrity crush now or when you were younger?
Oh man, this is gonna be a weird one. When I was a kid, there was a show that was only on for a couple seasons called The Torkelsons. It's when I was just a little kid, and there was a girl on there with this curly hair and a southern accent that I kind of crush on. I don't remember her name though, but it's the daughter in The Torkelsons. It's a really weird reference.
Okay.
I was really worried he was going to say it was Vicky the Robot from Small Wonder.
Was the character's name Dorothy?
Yes, I think so. I think so. It's been a long time.
Her name is Olivia Burnett.
Yeah, that's the one.
And she's got curly brown hair.
Yep.
Yeah. So Olivia Burnett is now 42 years old, has been working, it appears. Hold on, let's see what her IMDb says. Yeah, she's just working the whole time. Sons of Anarchy, Dexter, NCI, a lot of TV, just kind of doing her thing. So you can still find your crush on television, Olivia Burnett. She's still out there grinding.
Here you go, Beau. All right. And she's not big enough that you couldn't probably friend her on Twitter and exchange a little something. I mean, maybe don't do that, but I don't know. All right. The number one song remains Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. It's fourth and final week. Now, Jeff sang it. Mike sang it. I sang it. And now, just like Mia from Australia sang Walk Like an Egyptian when she gets hosted, it's Beau from South Florida. But apparently, okay, fine, you're going to do a duet here with Vern. I'm sorry about that. But, Beau, how you feeling? Are you hiding in actual singing chops?
No, it's the opposite. It's really bad. And in fact, I want to apologize to all the listeners out there about to hear what you're about to hear. You might want to, take children and move them out of the room and maybe turn down the volume for a minute or so. I'm just warning you now that I'm not a good singer, but I'll give it my best shot.
All we ask is that you bring a little gusto.
You know what? Mike inspires me, So in his early day, there was one song, I don't remember which one that was, but if he can do it, I can do it.
Buddy, all the songs I've sung have been horrible. And if I can inspire you to silver medal level or worse exertion, go for it.
All right, let's do this. Once upon a time, not so long ago, Tommy used to work on the docks. Union's been on strike. He's down on his luck. It's tough. So tough.
Gina works a diner all day. Working for her man, she brings home her pay for love. For love.
She said we got to hold on to what we've got.
It doesn't make a difference if we make it or not.
We've got each other, and that's a lot of love.
We'll
Give
give
it
it
a
a shot.
Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer. Take my hand and we'll make it, I swear. Whoa, living on a prayer.
Oh boy, I'm hot as a half-fucked fox in a forest fire. That's how you do it, chumps. Does it, Beau Rigby?
Gonna go with the
Yeah,
yes.
it does.
That Beau Rigby's.
All right, I've had enough of this fig fondling. I'm taking my smoke break. Don't bother me, you muzzle nuts. I'm out of here.
Believe me, I've never done anything like this before. Usually when I sing, it's
my
only in the
gosh.
shower. So
That was something. Well, we appreciate you giving your all, because that's really all we can do, right? You got out there, you didn't hold back, and we really appreciate that. So, all right. Got all that out of the way. Let's get into this great episode of MacGyver tonight. 8 o'clock. It's that Monday night, March 2nd, 87. Tuning into ABC. And it's MacGyver. It's season 2. It's episode 18, Partners, like we're all tonight in reviewing this one. And now, I hand over the reins of the show to Master MacGyver storyteller, Mike Garland.
Well, on this very date, my my ex-wife was turning 7 on March 2nd, 1987. So there's that.
Happy, joy.
Well, I do have 2 children. So we open with Mac giving us a monologue as he's rolling through the California streets in his Jeep.
The usual problem in Los Angeles on a lazy Saturday is what to do. Surfing in the Pacific? Skiing in the mountains? Maybe head for the beach and watch the girls roll in? Not exactly. I was celebrating, if that's the word, the anniversary of a friendship.
So he rolls into a junkyard here, and as he furthers the monologue, he also kind of says he's in this sort of scavenger hunt. I'll say it's like a bromance scavenger hunt with his friends. And the next thing we see is Pete sort of upside down under the console of a taxi cab, and he coaxes MacGyver inside. And after some back and forth, they realize that they've been set up. Mac thinks that Jack did it, and I think Pete thought that maybe Mac did it. Like, that's ultimately why they came together there. And the reason Mac thought that it was Jack is because it was because of Jack that Pete and Mac met. And if this seems odd to you, that would be true, because the storyline arc tells us that MacGyver and Pete have known each other for a long time. But as we find here through Axminster 1 and through this particular episode, the MacGyver and Pete Thornton friendship only goes back 7 years. Sam?
Yeah, I thought it was cool that we find the origin. We get to learn the origin of how those two met. I think How I Met Your Pete Thornton is a good premise for an episode. So once I knew they were going that route, I was excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, the lore is awesome. I'm glad that we're getting that. Like, as soon as they were setting that up, I'm like, the first time they met, like, oh, we're going to get like a Pete and Mac origin story.
hey, if you guys remember, in the first season, we already got a origin story that they've kind of contradicted it now.
Ooh.
The first one was they were in a quicksand, and that was with the quail episode. So now we're getting a different one.
Well, that's right. I remember when Pete is coming down the steps, that's the first time he's seen Mac in a long time in the quail booby trap house. He comes down, it's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a long time, right? And then they start telling how they know each other. And I felt like maybe that didn't jive with what we're learning here, right?
Exactly. There are some continuity issues.
Yeah.
So they're in this car together. MacGyver's using a magnifying glass of some sort to read a paper that Pete found, and what he ends up reading is their own obituary. Oops. The cab, by the way, it's getting crushed now. The cab has been procured by a forklift, and it's getting crushed, and this is the second Mac in a crushed car gag that we've had in as many seasons. And the car, it's been a little bit crushed, but now that forklift is taking it to the back of a box truck, and Pete and Mac are trapped inside. The forklift driver closes the door and drives off. So while you have Mac and Pete in the car, they're using their legs, they push up the roof, and they've escaped from the inside of the taxi, but they're still in this box truck, and Pete surmises that the truck is fortified. Mac has a little epiphany that it was 7 years ago that they first came together while trying to catch Murdoc. Now, MacGyver and Pete, well, they think he's dead, but no.
Thornton, MacGyver, do you remember what Mark Twain once said? The reports of my death are greatly exaggerated.
And Murdoc says that they're going to be together for about an hour and then it's over. But this is the first seed that we see of the underlying theme of the Murdoc character over the course of MacGyver, is that every time you think Murdoc is dead, he comes back, seemingly more diabolical than ever. So we first meet Murdoc. Michael DeBar playing this great Murdoc character. What are your initial impressions of Murdoc here?
Well, you haven't seen him yet. You've only heard his voice. And so I think it's later on where you get your first taste of him. So at this point, because I don't recall this character, even though everyone always talks about him, I don't recall it from my first time watching the show originally. So this is new to me.
Yeah, so right off the bat, they kind of hide his face like we're going to recognize him, but we don't. We've never seen him before. And then when he speaks, he's kind of, a little later in the episode, he's kind of like a mixture of Quail and Piedra, kind of they kind of put this character together to kind of give MacGyver a arch enemy, but also a little bit of
He does seem very comic book villain, right? Where he's going to sit there.
That's what I'm trying to. Yeah.
He's going to tell you what he's going to do. He's going to set the trap and leave you, to get out. He's not going to watch you die or any of that kind of stuff. And he's over the top with his verbal antics.
To answer the question about the origin story, so in the episode Deathlock with Quail, one of my favorite characters from the first season, it is true. MacGyver says he first met Pete in the, quote, Wadi Nafud Desert, which is interpreted to mean the An Nafud Desert in Saudi Arabia, and Wadi is an Arabic word meaning dry riverbed. That's contradicted here. I'm going to go with the one in the second season is going to be the one that's canon, because the first season you're we don't even know if this is going to get picked up. Second season they're setting the table.
I know, but yeah, you got to ding them for that. And also, you know what it was just last week? It was MacGyver's, the character's birthday from second season on, as we're going to find out in a couple episodes. But remember, the first season, when you see his birth certificate, it matches Richard Dean Anderson's real birth date. And the second season on, now it's going to change to March 23rd, I believe.
Why would they do that? Why can't you just keep it?
I don't know.
Well, and you wonder, to not go too far off topic, you wonder if in that first season, like we were saying, they don't know if the show's getting picked up. They need a prop real quick. So they just say, okay, well, what's Richard's birthday? We'll just throw that on there, maybe alter it by a year and go from there. And then as they go forward and they can have some more, regular props that they use, set pieces, whatever, then they come up with a little more of a backstory to the character themselves. But either way, we're finding as we watch this, some of those, origin stories don't match up, some plot holes, etc. And that's where we have fun with and at the expense of the show we love so much. So MacGyver, as they're in this box truck now, actually realizes, kind of has this aha moment that the car that they were in, that's now in the box truck, was the exact same make and model as Jack's old cab. And we flash back to that particular day. Apparently MacGyver was filling in for Jack, and we learn why as the episode plays out. But MacGyver was driving Jack's cab, and a woman gets in the cab, and we learn her name was Sarah, and a car starts to tail Mac and Sarah. And she pays her fare and runs off into a building, and the tail does the same, and we find that the tail is actually Pete with hair and a gun. And of course, Mac has to go and involve himself in this situation. And we see Pete drawing down on Sarah and another man, and Mac tackles Pete. Pete shrugs him off, and Mac says, you get no trouble from me, very passive, kind of puts his hands up, oh, sorry, no trouble from me. And as Pete runs out, still chasing Sarah, he draws the gun again, and Mac again dives and tackles him, and Sarah gets away. So Pete makes Mac drive off in the cab to follow her, and this is how Axminster 1 comes to an end.
That was a great tackle, for one thing. Just Superman style, right into him.
It sure was.
So, be honest. Would you have guessed Pete was blonde? Who among you thought Pete was blonde?
I don't know, but that toupee is just so funny.
I mean, I shaved his cubes. I knew he was blonde.
Yeah, you do.
The toupee is just so funny, and I didn't remember that they were going to have fun with it and acknowledge how bad it is. Because I was thinking, this is another thing to make fun of. They think this is good, but at least they did it with a wink. They knew it was a bad toupee. Now, little known fact here, this is kind of some slang, kind of came from like the hip-hop community, but now we all kind of say it. But no, it didn't come from the hip-hop community. Pete says it while they're in the crushed car. He says, let me try and raise the roof.
All right, let's see if we can raise the roof.
And you're familiar with raising the roof? This move, it actually comes from this episode of MacGyver. Pete Thornton created the raise the roof phrase. Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah, this is known. Yeah.
Well, and we see that the act of crushing the car wasn't to actually eliminate MacGyver and Pete in this particular case. It was to entrap them so that Murdoc could load the car into the back of the hauler. We open up Axminster 2 in real time, and we have Murdoc talking to Pete and Mac tells Pete to look around the car, see if they can find anything useful, putting his MacGyver brain into motion. We flash back to the car and the cab chase, and Mac apologizes and Pete begins to explain the situation. Again, this is back in the flashback where Mac's apologizing for kind of interrupting whatever he was trying to do, and Pete explains what was up.
I'm sorry I messed you up back there with Murdoc. I thought she was being mugged.
Well, you had no way of knowing the truth, so you jumped in. Got yourself in over your head this time, kid.
Name's MacGyver.
Pete Thornton.
So there, they've met each other officially. We get the reference of MacGyver. We get the Pete Thornton, and Axminster 2 rolls on. Well, they've met up with Sarah, except Sarah's not Sarah. Sarah is Murdoc, and the vehicle turns off the main road, and of course they follow. And we cut to two men with bazookas, and these men in this van and the bazookas cut them off, and Murdoc intervenes and teases Mac and Pete as well. And Pete explains who exactly Murdoc is.
Murdoc is an international terrorist, specializes in disguises. He's half chameleon, half rattlesnake. When he makes a hit, he always takes a picture of his victim dying.
So what you have here is Murdoc getting out the tripod and the camera, and Pete furthers it. I believe he says he takes 2 copies of the picture and sends one, I believe, to the victim's loved ones, and the other to, I think, their employer or something of the sort.
So half chameleon, half rattlesnake. Would that be a chameleon or a rattlesnillion?
So Mac and Pete, they're sitting in this taxi cab. They're sitting in the taxi cab. They're kind of pondering life as these two dudes with the LAWs are drawn down on them from the van. And Mac starts to take off his shoelaces, and he's wearing some Converse. And my experience with Converse is actually that the shoelaces do come out pretty easy. He's taking out the shoelaces, and Murdoc's on him again as Mac lassos the gas pedal with these shoelaces. And he picks up a wrench from the floor and snags a paperclip from Jack's taxicab medallion. Mac's rig is in place as Murdoc leaves, and the goons still have them in their sights. They're kind of joking, like, maybe we should shoot them now. And the one guy's like, no. Murdoc said, wait. Pete's kind of skeptical about what Mac's doing, but Mac lays it out. I mean, we'll do a Does It MacGyver here in just a bit, Beau. I'll go ahead before I play the audio.
Okay, so the wait 5 minutes was perplexing to me when he first said it. Who does that? Why don't you just blow them up, right then? Take the pictures. You want to get the pictures. You want to see it. Just do it. But I have a theory, actually. Watching the episode, Pete says that he was investigating Murdoc for 6 months, but Murdoc says, the last 5 years, I've enjoyed getting to know you. So 5 years translates into 5 minutes, because later in the episode, 7 minutes was on the clock. I don't want to go too far ahead, but 7 minutes gets put on the countdown clock, and it was 7 years since they met. So if you put the 5 years and the 7 years and translate as minutes, that's what Murdoc does, apparently.
And if you add the 5 and the 7 and divide it by 4, divide it by 3.
That's 3. Yeah.
Yes,
no.
just
we're changing the problem.
Well, as I was saying, Pete's a little skeptical about what MacGyver's doing, but he gives him a solid explanation, I think.
We're gonna gamble on a homemade cruise control?
It's scientifically sound. As I open the door, the shoelace pulls through the steering wheel, down to the paperclip. That reverses the direction of pull and yanks down the gas pedal.
Cab takes off. We jump out.
All right, Jeff.
Does it MacGyver?
This is actually really clever what he's doing. So according to Rachel Novak of Hens Gen Hardware, where she's the third generation owner of a local hardware store in Queensbury, New York, what MacGyver is actually doing is fashioning a pulley. And she says a pulley is any grouping of a wheel where a rope wraps around it for heavier objects. Scientists call these simple machines because they allow humans to multiply our force. And they can also change the direction of the force when you're being pulled. Also, Newton's third law of physics comes into play here, which states that when two bodies interact, they apply force to one another in equal magnitude and opposite direction. So, what I'm saying here is the simple machine of the pulley, which is the shoelace wrapping through the paperclip, combined with Newton's third law, where he yanks on it, an equal amount of force is going to be pulled the other direction. This definitely MacGyvers. Okay. So I think we should reach out to Rachel Novak at Hens Gen Hardware in Queensbury, New York, where she's the third generation owner of that local hardware store, to see if they want to sponsor us now that I put them in the show.
They probably will. My one beef with this is it felt longer than I remembered it the first time. This takes a long time. It's kind of silly, and it's made sillier because there's all this talking off camera, which is kind of one of my pet peeves, and I kind of brought it up last episode with the sidecar on the motorcycle. There's a lot of like Jack talking to Mac, and you don't see Jack talking. And with Mac explaining what he's going to do, and then Pete yelling back to Murdoc, you're never seeing them say that stuff. It's all just looking at the shoelace and the foot and just hearing the voiceover, the dialogue added. And it's like, I have a kind of a pet peeve with that. And they do a lot of that, but maybe I'm the only one that notices that.
It's scientifically sound, Pete. Come on, Mac.
Well, it's scientifically sound enough because they jump out of the car and the bazookas fire and the car explodes and everyone is safe for now.
Oh, hey guys, it doesn't say it in the credits, but those two guys in the van are Stubbins and Marlowe.
Oh, there it is. Jeff, he beat you to it.
He's figured out the 5 and 7 minute clock thing, and now he's doing this deep lore? Come on.
And actually, Pete draws up on the bad guys and holds them at bay, and Mac comes in and tapes down the dudes. Like we get the duct tape roll out of his back pocket, and clearly he's been using this duct tape roll because he's sufficiently folded it down. Like a brand new full duct tape roll, you're not smushing that and putting it in your back pocket. So he's been using this duct tape for a while, and so he gets those, and Mac yells at Pete.
So duct tape. When I watched this episode, way back when in 2008, I'm like, wow, that's a great idea, carrying around some duct tape. So I actually to this day, I carry around duct tape in my car wherever I go. And it's come in handy quite a bit.
Okay, but that's in your car. Mac is like...
Yes.
Where did he get this from?
It looked like he pulled it out from his jacket.
Bo, what are some of the things that you've used duct tape on since you've been keeping it in your car?
One thing was I hit a raccoon on the way home from work. And I hit it... Well, the raccoon actually committed suicide. It jumped right out in front of me, and it just wanted to go. And I was speeding.
You taped it back together.
I was.
Here you go, little buddy.
I was speeding pretty fast, and it cracked my front of my bumper, and the plastic part fell off, and it was kind of like hanging and dragging. And so I got out, took out my duct tape, I duct taped it up, and that duct tape lasted until for quite a while. I left it on there. And then finally, the elements, took the duct tape off. So we MacGyvered that by drilling a couple holes and then zip tying it up. So now it's all zip tied and it works great.
I mean that sounds pretty practical, but I want to believe that you just taped the little guy up instead. Well, through this all, Mac kind of yells back at Pete that he owes Jack a new cab. And oh, by the way, Jack's in this episode. We love Jack, but Jack's in the hospital with broken legs, and he's kind of down and out. And Pete explains that they no longer have the cab, but he doesn't quite say it's blown up yet. And Jack kicks Pete out, and he and Mac have a one-on-one. And the explanation between the two of them is gold. I love MacGyver's sort of sheepish explanation to Jack as to what happened to the taxi cab. This is great.
Mr. Thornton and I were riding in your cab chasing this woman who was actually a man who had a guy with a bazooka waiting, and he blew up your cab.
Hold it. Run that back. Run that by me again.
Mr. Thornton and I were riding in your cab and we're chasing this woman.
No, just the last part.
2 guys with bazookas blew up your cab.
They blew up my cab with a bazooka?
2 bazookas.
It's great. He's wearing that hat. He's wearing the
So
pilot
great.
hat. It's so great.
Well, and like Mac is just so ashamed at what happened, like the back and forth between the two of them, and then Jack kind of attacks him and falls out of bed and breaks his arm. I mean, like now Jack has gone to the brittle bones school of Pete Thornton skiing.
The money in cabs isn't in the cab anyway. It's in the badges. According to Rachel Urang at the LA Times, reporting earlier this year, LA had 2,364 cab permits, which doesn't seem like enough for a city that size. And they're going to increase that amount. But even at that time, you would have bought a badge so that you can operate the cab. Like the cab blowing up isn't what matters. It's the medallion.
Speaking of cabs, that's another thing that I also did for a day.
One day? Why'd you only drive a cab for a day?
Because I decided I hated this. I'm not going to do it. Oh, my goodness.
All the raccoons, you're constantly duct taping back together. Yeah.
Well, with Jack still in the hospital, Mac takes Pete to Jack's underground place. At least they got that continuity right between back-to-back episodes, that Jack still lived in the same place as he did the previous episode. Mac is there looking for taxi cab paperwork so that Pete and his crew, we don't learn it's the Phoenix yet, but Pete and his crew are they're gonna get a new cab. They're gonna replace the cab, and Pete is kind of admonishing Mac for being such a do-gooder. Mac sits down on Jack's bed and we hear a click. Pete says it's likely a low-powered charge, just gonna destroy the bed and the guy on it. Pete says the charge will blow up, so he grabs MacGyver and pulls him forward. Bed goes kaboom. Pete's hairpiece falls off, and Pete needs a little help.
Anybody who can use a paper clip, a pair of shoelaces, and a rusty monkey wrench to take out 2 bazookas could be very useful in taking Murdoc. Help me.
You're serious, aren't you?
Yeah.
Forget it! The taxi ride was it. I quit the volunteer business.
MacGyver, he is going to try to kill you either way. Now you cooperate, and maybe we'll take him. What do you say?
Partners.
That was a little cheesy with the partners there, and that's how Axminster 2 comes to an end.
Skinny sticklets, fat with flavor. Skinny, skinny, that's the shape of skinny sticklets, fat with flavor. See how skinny, taste how fat.
Only one gum gives you 9 slim sticklets instead of 7 wide ones in a regular pack. Sticklets in natural spearmint or peppermint.
Skinny sticklets, fat with flavor. See how skinny, taste how fat.
Sticklets.
I don't understand what I'm seeing. What is that commercial? Why the tango?
I mean, was that was like a competition of Juicy Fruit or something at the time?
What the hell?
Wrigley's Spearmint?
Oh, you got a gum of choice?
Not really. I'm not too much of a... Actually, you know what? I'm going to tell you something about gum. If I was president of the world, gum would be outlawed. Okay?
Oh, snap.
Because, yes. You know, not so much outlawed. You'd have to have a rigorous, license. You'd have to do some tests and things like that. Because I have seen too many people just stick gum wherever they want to stick it. And it's one of my pet peeves. Putting gum under the table or wherever you're at. Oh, you just stick out your gum and you just stick anywhere. No.
Gum chewers, look out. King Beau on the warpath.
Sorry about that, Passion.
Yeah.
All
We're
right.
uncovering deep wounds in Beau. Like, this has gotten really deep.
So Axminster 3 opens with more Murdoc taunting the guys as they roll on, and Pete finds some pantyhose and then starts to go kind of nuts in the back of the truck. Mac promises he'll get him out, and we cut back to the hospital, and Jack is trying to fleece Pete for a top-of-the-line cab. So we're cutting back and forth from real time in the truck where Pete and Mac are stuck to flashback of Jack trying to fleece Pete for a new taxi cab. And through all of this, Jack's eye is twitching like so incredibly much that it's not even funny. Mac turns around to kind of remind him that I painted your taxi cab, Jack. All those things that you want, I actually kind of did that. And then Mac's got some honesty problems.
Custom interior. Do you know what a custom paint job costs? Well, I'll tell you. 18 coats, hand-rubbed lacquer, the base paint, metallic, the best, the new engine.
Jack, I repainted your cab.
He's got honesty the way some people have diseases. Incurable.
Yeah, he does. That's why he made us promise to pay for your cab.
What about my fuzzy dice?
Everything. They're going to pay for everything, Jack, including the bed.
Good.
He trails off there again at the end, including the bed. Now Jack's all worked up and tweaked out, and the nurse walks in and has some eats, and it doesn't take long before Mac realizes that the nurse is actually Murdoc, and Murdoc turns around with a gun, but Mac kicks it away, and Pete and Murdoc are fighting, and Jack is stunned. Murdoc's on the run, and this scene now looks like the Joker in the Batman movie. I mean, it was like kind of eerily similar.
No, it didn't look like. Christopher Nolan, director of the Dark Knight trilogy movies, has credited.
I think this is probably evidence enough that we've talked about the many things MacGyver has inspired, including, I believe, Terminator 2. And this is clearly the source of inspiration for Christopher Nolan's, I would say, probably his entire career. Not just that one movie, but this is the moment that...
Yeah, Tenet.
Yeah.
What else?
Inception.
Interstellar. Whatever else he's directed. Inception.
Prestige.
All comes from this Partners episode of MacGyver. Because, Murdoc is dressed as a female nurse, and he turns around and, okay, I believe it. And raise the roof.
Speaking of Batman, I mean, Murdoc jumps the fence, and he's going into a building that's about to be demolished. Now, and of course, the Batman movie, Joker's sort of walking away, trying to blow up a hospital, and kind of Heath Ledger did it so perfectly, where he looks back at the building and he's pressing the buttons and kind of gives up, and then the thing blows up anyway. But in this case, building blows up. Everyone thinks Murdoc's dead. Nope, not dead. Driving a truck, taunting Mac and Pete along the way. Pete laments the fact that they should have actually checked the building.
The controlled explosive implosion footage. And if you're watching this on a big screen and in Paramount Plus high def, they cut to that building exploding. You're like, what? What is this, guys? Because this is clearly, it's from the Henry Grady Hotel demolition in Atlanta, Georgia in 1972.
15-year-old footage.
The truck pulls off the road, and Murdoc unhooks said truck, and he pulls away a bit, then hops out and affixes a bunch of dynamite to the underneath with zip ties. Taunts him some more somehow, and I would think, or I would have thought, that once he disconnected the cab from the trailer, that whatever wire rigging he would have had to speak through that PA would have been disconnected as well, but maybe it's wireless somehow. Pete's still kind of flipping out in the trailer as Murdoc's getting ready to blow the thing up, and he sets the timer for 7 minutes and offers one final goodbye.
I've just packed 12 pounds of dynamite on and beneath you. Enough to blow, say, a good-sized building. And more than enough for a truck trailer. So now's your time to make peace. To be precise. "7 minutes. To hell."
So 7 minutes, 1 minute for each year.
Dog years, also truck minutes. Same scale.
Something Murdoc says here, which I thought was interesting, and maybe it was Michael DeBar and his British heritage, but I have never heard a tractor trailer referred to as a truck trailer until that moment. So I wonder who would have written it. Was there a little ad-libbing going on Michael's part? But an odd turn of phrase, or at least something I had never heard before. I'm familiar with tractor trailers, rigs, haulers, but I've never heard truck trailer.
Also, it takes him forever to put those bombs on there. There's like 8 different bomb strapping cuts of him, like putting like he's putting a lot of bombs on there, and they really show you every single one.
Well, that is how Axminster 3 comes to an end. Axminster 4 is actually pretty quick. The next time we see the clock, it's under 4 minutes. And Mac gets the car battery out, also looks in the trunk, and Pete gets a smile on his face as he realizes that Mac's mind is working to the tune of an exhaust, an oil can, battery, and pantyhose. Murdoc, by the way, has gotten his camera out. He's ready to take some more pictures, and Pete is soaking the pantyhose in some of that engine oil. Mac kind of explains what he's up to now with this particular MacGyverism.
Do I want to know what it is we're making?
A sort of a bomb.
How big a bomb?
Pretty good one. See, the ferrous oxide in the aluminum shaving should generate enough heat to explode the battery.
And when it blows, it sets off the dynamite that Murdoc put under the trailer. You know what will be? Acid rain.
No, dynamite's stable. Usually.
So Mac tapes down the exhaust with that duct tape, lights his fuse, and they retreat behind the car, and Murdoc kind of sits in wait and watches. But as MacGyver's bomb goes off and the back door blows open, Mac and Pete jump out, and the trailer blows up. Meanwhile, Murdoc, of course, is beside himself and seeing what happened here. And before we get into what Murdoc now does next, Jeff
does it MacGyver.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a miracle that Pete's little bird ankles didn't break when he jumped out of that. I was really worried about Pete falling and breaking. We're going to have Jack with broken legs and Pete with broken legs. But, so what he says there is about ferric oxide and aluminum, which you may be familiar with as another way of describing thermite, which is an explosive and a relatively well-known one. And according to the University of Oregon, which if you look at their website, you have to click through and promise that you're not going to use any of the information that you learn there. It's called thermite, and the reaction is generated. Heat is released by a small amount of starter, so Mac lights it up. That's the right way to go. And then the reaction is an oxidation reduction reaction and a single replacement reaction producing, this is the important part, great quantities of heat, flame, sparks, and a stream of molten iron and aluminum oxide. So that is what Mac has set up in there to make this thing go off. And he's got it exactly right. So what this experiment says is to show an exothermic reaction, which just means like an explosion, and that you use Hess's law to calculate how this works.
How convenient.
Yeah, very convenient, right? And so how hot is this thermite, you might ask? Like how big a bomb? Mac says he's building a little bomb here, but he's building this thermite thing that's probably going to blow us all sky high. I found a 1996 paper from someone named Fisher, S.H. and Grulub. So I don't know where they wrote this, but it's a survey of combustible metals, thermites, and intermetallics for pyrotechnic applications. And they say this thermite can get up to 5,100 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's probably going to be enough to not just explode that battery, but melt through that door entirely. So that definitely MacGyver's.
So we are 2 for 2, I do believe, correct?
Yeah, well, dynamite is like the electricity. So in the thermite bomb, it's the fire from the pantyhose. In the dynamite, it's electrical charge that sparks a blasting cap that starts it.
So the trailer blows up, but Mac and Pete are out. But Murdoc is now tweaked out because he still hasn't killed MacGyver or Pete in this case. And he's got more dynamite, and he's lit it, and he's driving with this dynamite, and Mac is throwing rocks at the truck, just pelting the truck with rocks, and one cracks the window, which then kind of distracts Murdoc, and he drops the dynamite. Now, I do see the door crack a bit, but ultimately the truck explodes, and maybe that door crack leaves open the debate in the moment. Did Murdoc survive, or did he blow up with the truck as the shutters go off? And that is the end of Axminster 4.
No, he's dead. He's dead.
Clearly dead.
Pete, you know.
In that truck, he had duct tape. Like, so that's the continuity. But again, where was he keeping that duct tape? They got caught in this taxi cab that he does, like, where's he keeping a whole roll of duct tape? Does he have, like, a bandolier? The Swiss Army knife, I can believe, but a whole roll of duct tape?
So Axminster 5, gentlemen, Axminster 5 begins with everybody back at the junkyard, and they're getting into Mac's Jeep. But before they run off, Jack rides in with the motorbike and the sidecar, and he admits that he also got a note, quote, from Pete, unquote, but slept in. And he tosses the guy some flowers, sets a camera timer as they ham it up for a pic, and some closing audio.
It took me forever to find the lilies you asked for. After I woke up, around noon, or a little later. The idea sounds like a kick. Where's the party?
Actually, it's over.
Oh, no. You mean you guys have been sitting around waiting since 8 o'clock this morning?
No, not all that time. We went on a field trip with a friend.
Well, I'd like to hear all about it, but first... Well, I may have missed all the fun, but I want a picture for old time's sake. Remember who brought us together in the first place? That maniac Murdoc? Dead and buried these 7 years? Hold it. Here comes.
So everybody is smiles as the closing credits roll, and that is the end of Season 2, Episode 18, Partners.
All right. We've recapped, we've ridiculed, and now let's review Partners.
Name's MacGyver.
And what do you say? Let our guests
Throw 'em to
go
the
first.
wolves.
We rate each
Throw 'em to the
episode
wolves.
0 to 10. 10 mullets is the highest we can go. And Mr. Beau Rigby, you chose this episode. Let's see what you rate it.
Okay, so this was a pretty good episode, pretty solid episode. They introduced a recurring character that's going to define MacGyver going forward. And yeah, it was enjoyable. I'm going to give it 7, 1 for every year they know each other. 7 months.
Beau's like, damn it, I'm making this little conspiracy work for no matter what. So okay, 7 mullets out of 10.
I think Beau Rigby is spot on. I loved it. I loved the Murdoc character being so over the top that it's almost like self-parody of the speeches at the time and all that kind of stuff. And so I enjoyed that part of it. I love the lore story of it. So we learned their original meeting together. Of course, Jack's in it, and that's always fun. And good MacGyvering setups that actually work for once. Haven't had that in a few weeks, and I think a 7 is a perfectly appropriate grade. I will also give it 7 mullets out of 10. A 7 mullet affair.
I loved the story, and I think we can all agree that there were some plot holes and some origin issues, but at the end of the day, the story as it was told was done very well. The MacGyverisms worked. We got to see a little bit of what we could call younger MacGyver as he started to blossom and grow into the character that we know, and having Jack in it and Murdoc in it, and the interaction between Pete and Mac. This is my favorite episode to date of all the ones that we've watched. I think it's excellent. It's not perfect, but it's great. I give it a 9 mullet score. 9 out of 10.
Wowie, wow. That ties your the assassin score. That ties your highest mark ever. You gave the assassin. Wait, am I correct on that? Yes. I thought we were gonna have straight 7s across the board. Beau, Jeff, me, but Mike really likes it. I got a 7 for it because we are poking some holes in it. I do like flashbacks, but it gets a little tricky to try and remember what's, especially when you go to commercial break. When we come back from a commercial break, is this still one entire flashback or is it present day? That kind of stuff. A little bit of off-camera dialogue that irked me a little bit. And there are better Murdoc episodes to come. I say that confidently. So I appreciate the introduction. Michael DeBar is a great villain. Murdoc's a great villain. It's fun. It's cheesy. It's over the top. It's just what the show needed after I gave a 1 last episode. But I got 7 mullets out of 10 for Partners. All right, so we got a 9, a 7, and a 7. And just with an asterisk, we put in Beau's 7. And that brings us to...
This one's rated 8 out of 10
right,
mullets.
It's an average 8, and that is the highest mark this season.
Is it the highest of
That
any?
is our highest average. Nope, the assassin averaged 9.
Yeah, it's going to be like legendary. It's obviously with all the backstory and the character introduction, and it's like the MacGyveriest MacGyver episode we've seen, with the whole Pete being like, "Oh, what you got there? Like a can of oil," and blah 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 blah. Like, so it's very almost like it's too much of itself sometimes, but like it's such a representation of what the show is that it's good that it got that grade.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that grade. That's, you guys did it perfect.
All right, let's crunch the numbers now. This is where we count up the MacGyverisms from the episode and also see how many were successful and count up the time someone said MacGyver. But Jeff, Mike just said it a few minutes ago. Did Mac go 2 for 2 here?
He went Stubbins and Marlowe.
All right. Okay, how about the MacGyver? Let's see if your lucky streak can continue, Beau. How many times did someone say MacGyver in this episode?
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I'm going to say 7, but I'm going to not say 7. I'm going to go with 6.
All right.
Fine, then I'll be a legend. It's 7.
Mike?
Is that too low? Maybe.
All right. We got a 7. We got a 6. Mike?
21.
Mike, as usual, much closer. It was 17 times someone said MacGyver.
Really?
Yeah, 17 times. Murdoc drops it a lot once he gets the hang of it, and Pete drops a lot. And I thought there was going to be... They were saying Murdoc a lot. They were saying Mr. Thornton a lot. And they were saying Mr. Dalton a lot. Everyone was dropping each other's names like crazy. But I started to count the Murdocs just in case, and 14 Murdocs were said. So that was no you know. All right, so we'll give that one to Mike, I guess. How about the most make funable moment? What was the silliest thing here, Beau? What in this episode? What just like made you chuckle?
It was the bed. You know, they blew up my bed. You know, I'm laying on a bed. You know, right now. That's
okay.
I definitely like the reveal of Murdoc as the nurse. I shouted out in the room, "Look out, MacGyver!" It's like, and they do the cut, and it's him that turns around again. It's great.
I'm going to go with Jack falling out of the bed and breaking his arm. Like, you're already laid up because you have 2 broken legs, and now you've flopped yourself out of the bed and broke your other appendage.
For some reason, I'll just go with Pete's random temper tantrums that he would throw in the truck. A couple times he just all of a sudden lost it for a second, and he goes to the end of the truck. He's like, "Let me out of here!" And Mac's like, "It's okay, Pete. It's okay."
Pete is really terrible in the field.
Yeah. He's always getting shot and
injured. Very terrible.
He's getting shot. He's broken both his legs.
He wouldn't last.
But you've lasted, Beau Rigby. You've lasted an entire episode here making fun of MacGyver. You did a great job with some insights. You took our jokes. You didn't leave when Vern Sanderson picked on you, and we'll scold him for that. But any final words here on your full show debut here? We've enjoyed having you. Any final words, Beau?
Thanks, guys. I enjoyed being here. Keep doing what you're doing. You guys are entertaining. You guys have charisma. I mean, I come on here. I don't have that same charisma that you guys just have, but I really enjoyed listening to you guys through the weeks. And I guess it's been a year, right? Yeah, it's been a year. I've enjoyed listening to you guys, and you guys do good work, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for that. And we know you got a long commute to work, and when we hear that and we think of you driving to work and getting some chuckles and some Mac stories, that makes us feel good, so we appreciate it. Any other words, Mike and Jeff?
Thank you, Beau, for being a supporter of the show, for listening, for joining us and doing what you did here. It really, we probably think it's easy, it's second nature to us, but you did a great job to come on and hold court with us, and you beat Jeff to the Stubbins and Marlowe thing.
Nothing.
I got nothing.
Okay.
I'm out of jokes.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your fine efforts here today, and we thank you so much for listening out there. And, of course, a gracious hat tip to our patrons. It's Mia in Australia, who wants to remind us all about the importance of being an organ donor and checking in on friends and family from time to time just to make sure they're doing okay. Beau in South Florida, who reminds us that making people smile has a real-world impact. And Claire in New Jersey. Hey, why can MacGyver defuse bombs with paper clips but can't keep a girlfriend alive longer than 2 episodes? Go to deadfictionalgirlfriendsreport.com for the answers on that and more. Hey, we're always hunting for new friends, so say hi to us on the social media networks. Give us an email at makingfunofmacgyver@gmail.com. Call us on that hotline. And if you'd like to throw something in the tip jar and get the perks that come with it, it's patreon.com/makingfunofmacgyver. But above all else, folks, please keep coming back, because we are going to keep making fun of MacGyver. So for Mike and Jeff and Beau, I'm Sam. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Two guys with bazookas blew up your cab.
They blew up my cab with a bazooka?
2 bazookas.